Mute myself so there's no background.
Good afternoon and welcome to the latest ATTA webinar. Today's webinar is Savanna Private Game Reserve and the Dulini Collection in Sabi Sands. And presenter today is Lucinda Morris from Far Horizons Marketing. Lucinda has represented Savanna Private Game Reserve for the last 9 years and the Dulini Collection when they joined the Marketing Alliance in 2013. Lucinda's visited all 4 of the lodges on many occasions, but still refuses to favourite. But maybe she might reveal it today. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. Presentation will be approximately 20 minutes or so. After the presentation, we'll have the opportunity for a Q&A session. If you do have any questions, please just type those into the Q&A box that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. This way it'll allow us to run through those questions very easily, rather than using the chat box. So please use the Q&A rather than the chat box. So we'll now hand over to Lucinda for her presentation. Lou, over to you.
Thanks very much, Chris, and thank you everybody for joining me today on what is a very sunny afternoon in the UK, and I know we've got people joining us from all over the world. I am not going to refer to the current crisis at all today, you'll be glad to hear. I'm sure you've all heard enough about it, but we are going to go and think about lovely things in the Sabi Sands, and the 2 very close to my heart are Savanna and Dulini. Savanna I started, as Chris said, representing back sort of nine years ago now, and then in 2013 Dulini Lodge joined the Marketing Alliance, and then a few years after that, a couple of years after that, was followed by Ledwood and River Lodge to create the Dulini Collection. So this presentation, it's sort of rather strange having 2 competing properties sharing marketing resources, but it works incredibly well for us, and it has worked over the past since 2013. So that is why I market the 2 of them. Now we're going to start really with talking about Savanna, and remember when I talk about Savanna, there'll be quite a few things which are also relevant about Dulini. So one of the great things about this strong marketing alliance is they share a lot of values between them, and that means you know that you're going to get the very best standards. We share a lot of special offers together. They have their own rates, and the great thing about Savanna and Dulini together is if you start at Savanna at its entry-level room, which is luxury, going all the way up to one of the Dulinis, the Dulini, by the way, is common rated, you've got sort of a range of prices from 11,000 Rand up to 17,000 Rand, and also different levels of luxury. So you know you're going to get the same amazingly high standards, the same great game viewing, but people wanting different budgets, you can aim them at the right place. So the nice thing is that we do span a sort of a 4 to a 5-star market with these, and you'll find that helpful, and I certainly find it helpful when I'm marketing it. So we're going to go on, if we look at this slide here, for those that don't know the Kruger and Sabi Sands area so well, I'll go into a little bit of detail. You can see the sort of Kruger on the right hand side, and the greater Sabi Sand Reserve. That sort of shaded brown bit is what we call the western sector, and it is 10,000 hectares. And it is shared with a number of other lodges, which you will know about and have heard about: Nyati, Leopard Hills, Ulasaba on the left-hand side there, Adubi, and then of course we've got the Dulinis and Savanna. Now, they work incredibly well together. They all traverse over that 10,000 hectares, and they've got a great agreement between them, where you stay on your own spot for the first hour, and then after that you can roam over the whole 10,000 hectares. The advantage of that is that you really know what's in your area. They can subtly report it to the rest of the driver teams, and it means that everyone gets the best game viewing, because you know the elephants are in the west and you've got wild dog in the north, and so on. So it does make a great variety, and it works incredibly well. They're also incredibly respectful of the rules. We never put more than two vehicles on a sighting at one time, and they do work it so it feels that you really do have the 10,000 hectares just between a couple of vehicles. You don't see a great quantity of vehicles around, so it does work very well. So also for getting there, for access, you have got sort of 3-4 major ways really. First, where you can come in Kruger Airport, and then transfer in, and that to Savanna is about an hour and a quarter, a little further up to go further north to Dulini. Also through from Nelsbrook from JMIA, and you can come in that way, and then road transfer in, which is easy. You've also can come in Federal Airlines to Ulasaba directly from Johannesburg. That is the most pricey option, but obviously the most direct to go straight into the Sabi Sands. And another option also to come via JMIA and touch down with Airlink and I think Kruger as well into Ulasaba. So it also takes you straight into the western sector. So that's and then the final way, of course, is self-drive, and especially if they're coming to Savanna, they can then leave their vehicle there and use one, join one of our game viewing vehicles. But especially if they're coming in from Savanna, it's very easy to find it from Newington Gate, so that's quite an easy option if people are coming in that way. So I'm not going to go too much into the individual rooms, but I do want to give you an idea, as I said, about, that it is very flexible, Savanna, when you've got people with a bit restricted budgets, and it does work quite well there. So what we're looking at Savanna, we've got 3 categories over 9 rooms, and we've got luxury starting, we've got 4 luxury rooms or suites, we've got 3 of the executives, and then the Savanna suite, which is for where we can take children under the age of 8. The only place over all of Savanna and Dulini where we do take children under the age of 8 years, unless they're taking something exclusively, is in the Savanna suite. So that is worth mentioning and remembering, because there aren't that many family suites in the Sabi Sands, so we're a few people that do. We do have the option of selling those 2 Savanna suites as an individual executives, and then we just cut off the sitting room, dining room area, so then we can have the 5 executive suites. Every single one's got their own private heated plunge pool, and then they all look onto this lovely watering hole. So it's all incredibly well laid out. So Savanna suite that you see here is the only one which is thatched. The others are all tented, and we'll go on and have a look at those. But you can see here, this is the whole suite where you've got the sitting room, dining room area in the middle, or we can use them, if we use them as exclusives, you just don't use that middle bit, executives, and then you then they just have the sort of sleeping area like that. So that can be used either as part of the Savanna suite or the executive suites. So you can see it is quite a traditional sort of look to Savanna, although there is a contemporary twist, and it has all just been refurbished, so it looks really super smart, and everything looks like well designed and laid out. So this is part of the Savanna suite, where it's great for families. And we've got a brilliant bush baby program. So the children often don't, if they're under the age of 8, don't want to spend huge amounts of time on game viewing vehicles, in which case we can organise dam making or cooking, or specialist activities like poo flicking competitions and everything that you might want to do with your darling little children that don't spend hours and hours in a vehicle. So we can do very much tailored towards the family as well. And then we've got the executive suite, which is tented. So Savanna is known as a tented camp, and that's why, because of these. So they're rather lovely. So you can hear the wind in the trees and the hyenas calling, and yet you've still got the fan and the heating and all the creature comforts. So they're beautifully laid out rooms with massive bathrooms, and every single room in suite in Savanna and Dulini, you've got outside showers and baths, and then in here in this room in Savanna, you'll see that's a double shower as well. So, and then we've also, one of the things known about Savanna is that we when your guests come back from a game drive, we run that bath, and they walk in after their rather chilly safari on a winter's evening, and it's all been run for them with bubble bath and a glass of bubbles or sherry or something beside the bath, which is a really nice touch. And then going to the luxury suites, as I said, these started at just over 11,000 rand, and they are 11,600 rand, and the value for money is extraordinary. There's nothing you don't get in the luxury, so you don't get elsewhere. So it's all it is a bit of space. It's just about the size, and that is it. They've recently been refurbished. They look fabulous there. So exactly the same facilities, exactly the same amazing guiding, plunge pool and everything. So they become incredibly good value, and they do get snapped up rather quickly. So Savanna, this is the sort of main area. Savanna's probably a little bit more relaxed, and when I say family feeling, I mean part of the Savanna family rather than having sort of young children around. You know what I mean? So it's a much more relaxed, chilled atmosphere. We get more repeats and referrals at Savanna than anywhere else, and it's because people love to come back, and they feel they know the rangers and the guides incredibly well, and they feel that they've become friends of theirs, and that's why we get a lot of repeaters. Dining is a very social affair at Savanna. So we often do communal dining, and we try and dine different places every night. So this is an example within the camp garden, the lodge gardens, and we do sort of, when I do communal dining, it is with your ranger. So it's not sort of like, 20 people from the whole lodge. So it is still fairly, sort of intimate within your group of people that you're on a vehicle with, and it's not huge, and that's only ever 6. So I'll go on and talk about that in a bit later. And then we do private dining, especially for the honeymooners. And then this is an amazing touch, which is incredible and very unique to Savanna. Salati line, as many of you will know, used to run through the Sabi Sands, and it was discontinued in 1969. And Savanna kept a train carriage and there's a little bit, about 1 kilometre, I think, of track. And when the guests aren't looking, they bring out this about once or twice a week. We try and do it for most guests, but we can't always guarantee it because of the weather and things like that. But then they bring this train, they refurbished a train carriage, one train carriage, which was the dining carriage, and brought it out, and guests come around the corner, and then it's all sort of lit up with candles, and they have some more drinks, and then they go in, they dine inside, and it gets really festive and fun. And they've got old ticket stubs from 1969, and the rangers tell all the stories about, and they get, talk about not just the Sabi Sands, but trade with Mozambique and Paul Kruger, and all sorts of sort of bigger stories that come out of it, and the guests love it. But don't tell them about it, because it is a surprise when it happens, and also just in case we can't, it just so happens that when your client is there that we haven't managed to sort of do it for that night, but we do try and aim to do it. The game viewing is absolutely spectacular in the Sabi Sands, as many of you will know. Our rangers are incredible, second to none, and we have trackers on every single vehicle as well, and that applies to Savanna and Dulini. We use Land Rovers, and they are specially adapted Land Rovers, so we get 6 on a vehicle, and everyone has their own individual bucket seats, and then a central console as well. So obviously, if your guests, are in a group of 7, we can get 7 on, but we only ever put 6 in a vehicle. We can do little walking safaris, which is very popular, and they are more little bush walks, 20 minutes, half an hour, or we can do a bit longer, but we do try and get everyone out on their feet at some point. There is also an option of, if they're spending 2 nights or more at Savanna and at one of the Dulinis, then we can walk them in the winter months, so between May and October. We can walk them between the 2. It's about 13 kilometres, I think, and it's quite a lovely walk through the bush, and we don't make them drag their own suitcases. We do actually take them for them, but they have to stay at both places, and if they would like, we can do a full day walk and picnic underneath the shade of a tree, if that's what they'd like. Talking about exercise, we do have a gym, a wonderful gym, which if for those that want to work off that amazing food that is provided at Savanna, and then we can offer massages and some therapies within the rooms. We Savanna take their social responsibility incredibly seriously, and they support a number of charities, and just to name a few, one of them is an orphanage where they feed 250 orphans every single day to make sure they have a proper meal. They also have a retirement home which they support, and their dog charity or an animal charity which they do. So they're endeavouring to, and I'm getting a lot of updates about how during this crisis they're continuing to support them, and I promise not to mention the crisis, but anyway, there I go. Safety, we subscribe to safety, so it is peace of mind for you and peace of mind for your your clients. It is a paramedic who is based at St Gita, and they're just 15 minutes away. So if your clients have got a little scrape they're worried about, or they've got a headache they're concerned about, we can just call them in and make sure that the doctor checks them over and everybody is happy and feels secure. And just finishing, final slide for Savanna on this rather lovely picture of the cheetah, which is rather nice way to say goodbye to Savanna before we move on to Dulini and the Dulini collection. Now, as I said, there's quite a lot of things which overlap on this, but equally there's quite a lot of individuality about Dulini as well. It is in the western sector as well, and you can see where it's located here. So you've got your two areas. It was what some people would remember as being called Exeter, which was the old River Lodge, when it was all with and beyond, Dulini Lodge and Ledwood Lodge. I would say, please don't think that Dulini Lodge is the main lodge. I often hear people refer it to as the main lodge. It's not at all. They are all common rated. They're all as special as each other. They just have individual little characters, and I will try and point out what those are. But I'm not going to go into the individual characters too much. So please feel free to get in touch with me or one of my colleagues, and I'm going to share some details at the end of my colleagues around the world who also do represent your markets. I'll share their details with you. They are they all are have their own characters and their own USP. So if you would like more information about any of them, I can do that. But just to sort of more of a general overview about the Dulini collection, it's the 3 lodges we've mentioned. They're all privately owned. So it gives you 16 suites over 3 lodges to choose, and depends where availability and how far in advance. But each of them, they've got a common thing where they are all in riverbed or riverine settings, and on the Mabrat or the Sand River. The vehicle's exactly like Savanna. They've got individual bucket seatings. What we have at Dulini is that we've got a pair of binoculars per couple to share, so they're in the vehicle as well. We've got safari packs for each guest, and they've got field guides and all the photographic supports and everything. We've got fleece line ponchos. So very, very, very similar, so very high spec vehicles. I haven't gone on too much about the safari experience, because I know so many of you know this is what is so well associated with the Sabi Sands. The game viewing is second to none, and while none of us can ever guarantee anything, I have, every time I've been there, I have seen the big 5, and you do generally see them, and every guest generally will. Obviously we can't write it in stone, but it is an amazing game viewing experience. And the wonderful thing about it is all the rangers, they know these animals and the prides and the individual leopards so well, as they tell this incredible story about how one particular leopard and how it became dominant and where it was born and who was its mother and what happened to these lion cubs and did they survive. And then they do also wonderful, Savanna does a wonderful monthly blog which you can follow and find out about all the animals, which is great. So it's all about hospitality and service at Dulini. You've got an individual, private, personal butler service, and you've got an incredibly high ratio of staff to guests, which is very important. We have the point here saying we've got 15 vineyards of carefully selected house wines, so that all of them are sort of like all-inclusive for wine, with the house wines and house spirits. But we have an incredible cellar at Dulini and at Savanna where guests can walk in and choose wines, premium wines that they can pay additional for, but their cellars are wonderful. So that is throughout the Dulini collection as well. Dining at Dulini is incredible. It is, the head chef Altus is amazing, incredible. I've had the pleasure of sitting and dining with Altus, and my husband, who's a real foodie, would ask him about every single thing on the plate, and Altus can tell you where it was sourced from, where it came from. He can cater for pretty much every dietary requirement you can send at him. Throw at him, so he is loves the challenge of that. But the food visually looks incredible. I would say it is fine dining at Dulini, and it is really it's really well known for it. We do a mixture of private dining and communal dining, much more private dining compared to Savanna, but we do a mixture of both. And if anyone wants to private dine the whole time at Savanna or Dulini, we can certainly organise that. So this particular shop actually is at River Lodge, and I'll go on and tell you a little bit more about that. But so that you also know, we have Wellness Centre at Dulini Lodge and at River Lodge, and then if they're staying at Ledwood, we can take them to one of those if they want to go to the gym, for example, and then we can do massages in deck and also on the deck, and then also similar to Savanna, Dulini takes its social responsibility incredibly seriously, and they have got a number of projects on the go where they are supporting very important charities and the community around them. And then as similar to Savanna, we've got the safety as well. They subscribe to safety, so the same thing applies. And then just very quickly, finally, I'm just going to a little bit of focus on each of the lodges, just so that you have a general idea about it. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we've got Dulini Lodge, as I said, is not the main lodge, it is one of the lodges. There is 6 suites in Dulini, and in case I forget to say later, there are 4 in Ledwood and 6 at River Lodge. So Dulini is on the Mabrac River, which is a seasonal river, so a lot of the time it is dry, but it is incredibly peaceful and a beautiful place to sit, and you see the sort of animals come up the dry riverbed. Very much more traditional than the others, the look of and feel of Dulini, but every attention to detail has been taken. So if you look underneath the mirror there, that little horn, you pick that up, and then there are sort of a bank of all the international plugs that you would require. Everything's got mosquito nets. It's very romantic, like at Savanna. All the plunge pools are heated, and they're huge spaces with a little sitting room area, and then a bedroom area and a bathroom area. We have got little fireplaces in all the rooms and all the suites at Dulini. It's a very romantic, but a very calm and chilled place at Dulini. It's lovely. These are the gardens around Dulini. We have one single strand of wire that goes around all 4 of the lodges, and that's to keep the really bad boys out. So that's the sort of like naughty elephants and the bad buffs and buffalo. So they are kept out. But the antelope are very free and come in and sort of like you can watch the Nyala do their funny old dance whilst you're having breakfast. And then we do escort people, our guests, to their rooms at night, but they're free to walk around during the day. So it's a lovely feeling when you're watching the game all around you. And then there's a main swimming pool at Dulini as well, which has recently been done. This is actually not the most recent photograph. I mean, it's not old, but we've refurbished it since this image. So it's got a main swimming pool there. But most people, because they've got their private plunge pools, prefer to stay there unless they're in a bigger group. And then just moving on to Ledwood Lodge, this is more exclusive in the way that it is only 4 rooms. We still only ever put 6 people up on a vehicle, so we can run 2 vehicles here. So if we're full camp, then it'll be 4 and 4 for the 2 vehicles. But, you know, being with a smaller camp is not everyone's cup of tea. Some people prefer the slightly bigger sort of size of 6. But really with Ledwood, the USP is the size of the plunge pool and the rooms. You know, it's a pretty impressive. It's more of a lap pool than a plunge pool. And again, similar to Dulini, that feeling that you've got a separate sitting room. There you can see the fireplace, the beautifully refurbished bedroom, and then the bathroom as well. And then we've got the outside shower. Boma dining, I didn't mention Boma dining for Savanna, but we have it in Savanna and all of the Dulinis. It's a very important part, isn't it, of that South African experience. And finally is River Lodge, which is set on the corner of the Mabrac and the Sand River. Sorry, that's not true. Going back to Ledwood. Ledwood is on the corner of the Sand and the Mabrac River. And the Sand River, as some of you will know, is the river that flows, and it flows all year round. I do believe that, was it 2 years ago when there was that really harsh drought, the final day before the rains came, it slowed to its final trickle. But in essence, if there isn't a massive drought and it's very severe, the river will run. But it allows, River Lodge allows these amazing vistas left and right along the Sand River, and you can see game coming up and down and drinking, and it is wonderful. So whereas Dulini Lodge is a little bit more intimate and very tranquil, the feeling about River Lodge is a bit more open views and vistas. River Lodge got the biggest refurbishment 3 years ago, I think it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think it must be now. As you can see, it's spectacular. It's incredibly stylish. I always think that I love these lamps, these not lampshades, you know, coming down from the ceiling. I always think they'll be look great in my house. And then I remembered that I live in a small Cotswold cottage that actually they would basically just hang on the floor, so that's not going to really work. So, but they are spectacular, and throughout the lodge you do feel you're in an incredibly stylish environment. But we do keep it nice and snug with fires as well, but really it is all about these incredible views that you see and the animals coming down, as you can see dining underneath here, underneath the sausage tree. The rooms are a little bit more idea as open plan in River Lodge. We sort of kind of feel, because it's slightly more contemporary, that maybe this is sort of better for the honeymooners and the younger ones, but equally, you know, they are huge rooms as well. Every single loo, can I say, every toilet is separate. Everyone is private in Savanna and Dulini, none of this open plan loose scenario. So it's beautifully laid out, and that's the outside shower as well, leading to the outside shower. And even the bathrooms are, you know, you get bathroom envy from here. Yes, the beautiful plunge pools where you sit and watch the elephants, read your book, watch the elephants go to the river. So that concludes my presentation for Savanna and Dulini. I just before I come to questions and answers, the international marketing contacts. Obviously, I am based in the UK and I do their UK marketing, look after their UK marketing. Because we are, you know, part of ATTA, this is obviously a more international forum that I'm broadcasting to. So you will, if you have a look here, you'll see who your local contact might be if you've got further questions, and you are welcome, obviously, to direct your questions to them if you know, or to me or whatever, but those are your local contacts. So back to Chris for questions and answers, I think.
Excellent, thanks Lucinda, wonderful presentation. Great to see a lot of familiar names attending the presentation, so thank you everyone for the time. If you didn't catch the beginning, if you do have any questions, please simply type these into the Q&A box and I will be posing them to Lucinda. Similarly, if anyone missed any elements of the presentation, it is being recorded and the recording will be sent out to everyone as soon as the presentation is done. So just kicking off the questions, a sort of combined question from Daniel Adam and Laurie Toledano. Is it best to fly, or is it best for clients to fly to Skakusa or Nelspruit? This is for Savanna. And how long is the transfer from Skakusa?
Yes, so from Skakusa to Savanna is about an hour and a half, hour and a quarter, and then add another 15 minutes to Nelspruit. So there isn't really that much in it. So it really depends on where they're flying from and which flights and budget suits you. I wouldn't, you from Skakusa, you still have to come out of the park and come back into Newington Gate. So although it is probably, as the crow flies, closer, there isn't that much on time difference. So I think we're seeing more and more people come in from Skakusa, but it does give you the two options.
And just a little request from Glenn from Springbok. Would you mind just popping the map on your presentation back?
Absolutely. Let's go. The first one or the second one, do you think? Let's go. Are we looking at that one? There's one of them. Yeah. So you can see, actually, if we get into Dulini by road, Johannesburg, so 5 to 6 hours. We talked about the road transfer from Nelspruit. You've got an hour and 45 minutes. That's to Dulini, okay? So if you come in from Newington Gate, there is a sort of like a main, not a main road, it's a main track, a sort of spine road going up through from sort of past Savanna to Dulini, which obviously they don't do game views on. But if you're transferring people, then they may transfer them up, they will transfer them up that way to Dulini if they're coming from Nelspruit or from Skakusa. So if you take 15 minutes off for Savanna. So from Nelspruit, it would be an hour and a half to Savanna. And then then about an hour and 15 from Skidoo, so it's just slightly closer.
Right.
And then just in case somebody wanted to take a screenshot or whatever, I'll just post you back to this first one, because there were two. There we go. There's the other one.
There we go. With regards to dietary requirements,
Yes.
question from Michael Saylor, are you able to do celiac gluten-free?
I believe that we are. We can. I know we can certainly do gluten-free. Celiac, I would need to check, and if I could just have those contact details from you, Chris, at the end, I will find out.
Steve Balderson, what's the average length of stay at Dulini?
3 or 4 nights, I think, is the average. It's a sort of fairly typical. We've got we've got a honeymoon offer, which is a minimum of 3 nights, where the bride goes for 50%. I didn't mention our offers, and I didn't want to get too salesy in this, and I still won't go too far, but we do have a honeymoon offer where the bride goes for 50%. And that is for a minimum of 3 nights, but people generally stay for 3 or 4. I will also just quickly mention that what we've decided to do regarding our 2021 rates is that we are freezing our 2020 rates until August, but you can make bookings into and including all of 2021, and it just gives us all a little bit of time to take a breath and know that we've basically frozen our rates, and then we all know where we stand, and in August we may have this amazing clarity, and then we can decide whether we keep our 2021 rates at 2020 levels or whether we change them.
Perfect. Also on the subject of food, another question from Daniel Adam. Is private dining also possible at Savanna?
Yes, absolutely it is. It is much more the default setting is communal, but we can certainly always do private dining, and we do. And also with honeymooners, they will always get a candlelit private dining for 1 night and some sparkling wine. But we often find that people do it for 1 night and then are very happy because they hear everyone giggling up at the lodge. It's a very fun, jovial kind of atmosphere at Savanna. It's much more of a group hug at Savanna, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And keeping on the subject of food, from John Varkey Calais, are you able to do halal and kosher?
Absolutely. At Savanna, we 100% can do halal and kosher. That is definitely not a problem. I just need to double check about Dulini, but take it 100% Savanna, yes.
Okay. Another question here. What are the vaccination requirements?
I think you need to speak to your doctor. Isn't that the standard line?
Yes.
Yes, I think we'll stick to the standard line. It is malarial, if that is the question. Yes, Sabi Sands is a malarial area. Yeah,
but definitely best option is to speak to your medical practitioner. Question from someone anonymous. Are there private game drive vehicles available at all of the lodges?
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, it is down to availability, but at all of them, it is entirely possible to do that. And if anyone wants the individual rate for that, then please do drop me a line and I'll be happy to give it to you. But yes, it is possible at all of them, but obviously we don't have an infinite number of private vehicles.
Okay. And also on the subject of game drives, do you see neighbouring vehicles on your game drives?
Yes, absolutely. Because we are on in this sort of 10,000 hectares all together and we all share it. Yes, you do. But they are really clever and very talented, and because they have been doing this for many years, this is not sort of like new. The Western sector has been, I can't even tell you the dates of when it joined, but certainly in excess of the 10 years I've been doing it. So they're very used to making, they speak before the game drive to ensure that, yes, I'm going to concentrate on the north and I'm going to concentrate on the south. So there isn't a build up in one area. They're really clever at doing that. So yes, whilst you definitely do, the other thing I'd say is really, you never see a huge quantity of them. And the other thing, which is really good, is all of the lodges in that Western sector are of a really good high standard. We're all in good company with one another. So when you're seeing them, you're also seeing other vehicles of similar standard. So you're not seeing minibuses or anything like that. So whilst you do, it's of a very reasonable level.
Okay. So are there a minimum number of nights that you need to book? And if someone's booking Dulini, do the guests choose which lodge they book, or is it based on availability?
So no minimum number at all. There's no minimum. So you're welcome for any length of time. No, so you would choose, or availability would dictate which lodge. So you're as tour operators or agents, if you would either say, right, please can I book into Dulini Lodge, for example, or you would go to your ground handler and say, I would like one of the Dulinis, can you let me know what the availability is? But no, you would choose, or we would let you know what availability is at each.
Okay, and we're just down to the last couple of questions here. So at Savanna, where children under the age of 8 are allowed, do they offer bumble drives, exclusive game drives for family, or is there an age restriction on the game drives?
So because the only place that we allow the children to be is in the Savanna suite. When you take the Savanna suite, you get private dining and you get private vehicle. So that means that game drive is specifically and carefully tailored to the age of the children in the Savanna suite. So in the Savanna suite, we can take 2 adults and 3 children, or 4 adults. That's the sort of size that we can take in there. So if you've got 3 children, we will go with what is suitable for those children. I believe in South Africa, they do have restrictions about the age of children that can go near big cat sightings. I can get more information, but it is a South Africa rule rather than just a Savanna rule. But yes, so that would be 100% tailored, and it would be a private vehicle for children under the age of 8.
Great, thank you. One final question just popped in, skin of the teeth. What's the minimum age for children at Dulini?
The minimum age for children is 8 years old. Yes, so it's 8 and over at Dulini, at all 3 of the Dulini lodges. So it's the same across all of them, the exception being the Savanna suite, where we can take children under the age of 8.
Fantastic. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. So Lucinda, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to everyone listening and all the questions that came through. I hope you found it informative and a little bit of an escapism into the South African bush. I certainly did. So Lucinda, thank you very much. And until next time, keep your eyes out for the next webinar.